Hello everyone, my name is Ian.
I'm Charlie.
I'm Austin.
I'm Joseph.
And welcome back to Is It Worth It? The show where we watch an obscure movie and ask ourselves the question, is it worth it?
Nope.
So we gotta...
I already got a feeling this one's not going to be worth it.
Oh, it's gonna be.
I get that weird feeling too, actually. Anyway, we've got all four of us here for the first time.
Wow.
First time with
First
more than
time
three
ever.
people. Yep.
Yeah.
Talking.
And we are going to also change up the method of putting movies on the wheel. But let's. What exactly is the wheel?
Well, the wheel has movies on it that we have gotten off of IMDb that have less than 100 critical and user reviews, and from before the year 2000.
Well, they're at least 20 years old.
At least 20 years old, yeah.
And we haven't seen them either, so we have no idea whether they're good or not.
Nope.
And the goal is to watch these obscure movies and figure out whether these are movies that should be recovered or movies that are rightfully forgotten.
Deserve to stay, deep in IMDb.
Yeah. Now, we're doing the wheel slightly different this time because there's four of us. Usually, when there's three of us, we each put two movies on, and then we have two movies from previous episodes. But because there's four of us, we can't do that. So instead, what are we doing?
Well, today we just we all put one movie on instead of the normal two when we do when there's three of us. Today we all brought one movie to put on the wheel, and then we chose four from our discard pile.
Yep. So there's a 50% chance that we will not get a movie that we pick this time.
That's it.
But shall we go ahead and do it?
Spin
the wheel.
Spin that wheel. Spin that wheel.
That was a good one.
Repeat.
It was. And, it's a new one. It was almost on a previous one, but it's a new one.
I hope it's my movie a lot.
I hope it is mine.
I hope it's mine.
Alright, whose movie is it? Oh, boy! Oh, I'm really excited for this one.
Oh, it's Ian's, isn't it?
It is mine. It's mine, yes.
It's Ian's.
This is the number
If it's
one.
another silent film, Ian, I'm gonna...
It is another silent
Oh,
film!
no.
Oh, great.
It's called Seven Footprints to Satan.
Oh my god.
Alright, a lot of Satan.
There's a lot of Satan in
Series.
obscure movies. It is from 1929, so it's a little bit after the height of the silent film era, but it's still a silent film. And it is also short. I'm pretty sure this is not the music that goes with the movie. Maybe it is. Yeah, it's fine.
I can't tell who the evil person is yet.
I don't think
The
we
guy with the gun.
Oh,
wow. Oh, I thought he was shooting him.
I thought it was too. I think that's what we're supposed to do.
He's shooting out the flames, like in that
What?
movie.
He's not doing a very good job.
Yeah, no, he's really not. He sucks at this.
I've been practicing. A great explorer must be able to handle a weapon and hit targets accurately, without fail.
You're not a great
You
explorer.
can't be a great explorer if you hit things with fail.
An explorer? You? Where do you intend to go exploring?
Hell.
I have decided to embark upon an expedition to darkest Africa. Who wouldn't last 10 days in that territory?
Yes, that territory of Africa.
Screw you, Uncle Joe.
I'm a little worried this movie could become very racist.
It
very
could.
quickly.
Ian, you gotta stop choosing racist 20 silent movies.
I'll like nap and let you guys summarize this and then give you my answer, okay?
That was a ride.
I think we just let Ian summarize it like we always do.
That was a ride.
Alright,
So you had facts?
I do have facts for us. So, to start off, this is actually based on a book by famous author Abraham Merritt. So
Really?
Yeah.
It's based on a book.
Yeah.
Okay then.
It was produced as both a silent film and a part talkie, making it one of the last, if not the last, silent horror films. The
That
sound
was the actual sound.
None.
the sound version is presumed lost with no known 16mm copy. So there is a sound version of this film.
So this guy just sort of like bastardized the silent version.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. But there is a sound version out there. So that's
Well,
kind of
maybe.
crazy.
Somewhere.
Maybe.
And finally, it had a budget of $129,000, 129,900.
And it's all on the screen, I
say
can
this
tell you that
number.
much.
I can't
That
say
that did look like a very expensive movie.
But yeah, so that's all I got for this one. We can jump into the summary.
Alright. Well, okay,
I'm just gonna lay here.
that was Seven Footprints to Satan. A movie.
I don't have the energy.
I don't know.
This was a.
Ian, you can just go.
All right, so we'll start. So first off, this is a silent film, as my third silent film, in fact. I've put, I don't know, like how many at this point? Like 13 movies onto the wheel. Only I believe 5 of them were silent, and we've just happened to get. And
every single one.
And 2 of them were 7 Footprints to Satan. I put that one on twice. That was on the wheel twice this time, potentially. So we'll start. We meet our hero, James Kirkham, when he is visited in the night by a strange visitor, whose identity I never really figured out.
It's Craig.
I thought it was his butler.
I don't know. But we should also preface this by saying that the version we watched, the only version I could find, well, actually there were 2 versions, but this was the better quality one, believe it or not.
I don't believe it.
Was scored with a bunch of Kevin MacLeod, the most generic music that you've ever heard. Like the do 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 do.
Yeah. It's like the stuff you would hear in like old like Minecraft machinimas or something.
It was though.
Really, really basic.
One of them was actually one of the songs from the menus of Modern Warfare 2. I'm not kidding.
Well, they used a lot of royalty-free music. Sometimes very oddly, like when they had like the techno bops.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Weird. Oh yeah.
Whoa.
This is terrible music.
I know this music too. I've heard this in videos before.
I know. I have to come up.
Rocky Horror Picture Show at this point?
But yeah, so we start with James Kirkham. He's talking about not going to see the cases in the antechamber. And his uncle arrives, Uncle Joe, played by our friend here.
Yeah.
James Kirkham is Uncle Joe's nephew, which is really, I don't know, that was very anachronistic. No, that's not the right word. That was very, that was very pointless to say.
Let's get through this summary.
It's hard. And
Uncle Joe comes to see him. Yeah.
He's like, I got a job for you, and James Kirkham's just like, no, I'm gonna go on an expedition to the darkest heart of Africa. And Uncle Joe's like, you're wasting my money, but whatever, here. Your girlfriend Eve is here. Then Eve comes and invites him to a gala, and they're at the gala, and they're introduced to like this
rich people.
This one guy, like Dr. Ward or something, the professor from Dresden. Honestly, this is probably my least favorite scene in the film because it's just a lot of we go through like 2 minutes of this professor from Dresden is just like, yes, I remember you. You
can't remember his name.
This is like 2 minutes of this of him just going, you are the guy who and then just out of nowhere. Someone just pulls a gun and just starts shooting at the party, and then someone else pulls it. Oh, it was a woman actually. A woman pulls out a gun and just starts firing off. And this was a silent film that was they added sound effects to make it sort of like the half silent, half talky sort of thing. So they just add a lot of gunshots and later generic whip sound effects. Eve and James Kirkham, who has these like Harold Lloyd glasses on, he is the most pathetic protagonist I have ever seen. And so they flee and they get in Eve's car, or they get in what they think is Eve's car. They get in the car driven by Eve's chauffeur, and it turns out that the windows are plated with steel.
And they can't get out.
And he brings them to Satan's mansion. They get out of the car, and someone has a gun on them. There's a lot of people just pulling out guns in this movie. They just pull a gun on him and shove him in, and they say, get in. And that's when they're greeted by the doorman, who never shows up again. This kind of short, creepy, vampire-looking guy who's just like, welcome! And then he leaves.
Yeah.
And he disappears into a white void that comprises about 80% of this movie. because the film quality is terrible.
The exposure is really high.
Then they spend about 20 minutes just running around before anything else
This
happens.
freaky mansion, and they're introduced to this whole cast of characters. There's the
Gorilla
Satan's
Man,
beast, which is just a
Satan's
guy in a
beast,
gorilla suit. There's the
Satan's mistress, a creepy looking woman.
There's Satan's mistress with the
Everybody
crazy
is
eyebrows.
something to Satan.
There's the dwarf, who is on like
Everybody is something
revolving
to Satan.
inside of a revolving column. It is the craziest
Soon
funhouse
to be.
of a movie I've ever seen.
Satan's
Like
boy.
we were talking about during Evil Heritage how I was just expecting anything to happen. This is the movie where I had no idea what was going to happen. And they're just running around this mansion. There's some cool shots and everything. And finally, they're introduced to Professor Moriarty, except we don't know he's Professor Moriarty yet, who is like this sort of like he has this werewolf monkey. He looks kind of like Professor Bobo from Mystery Science Theater 3000. He has these huge Martin Van Buren sideburns.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to Satan's mistress, and then someone pulls a gun on Harold Lloyd. Not Harold Lloyd. I call him that because he has glasses that look exactly like Harold Lloyd's. You know who Harold Lloyd is?
Nope.
He is the third silent comedian after Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin.
Tight.
This woman pulls a gun on him and Eve and gives him a key and says, "Go to Chamber 13 and tell the guy there that everything's prepared." And so he takes the key and is followed down this hallway by Satan's beast, which is actually, I must say, a very good shot. With some great shadows, and he enters Chamber 13, and there's some random guy there, and he's just like, "Ah, what are you doing? You're a slave of Satan!" Ah! And then he just get out, and this goes literally nowhere. And
That was
It's a
strange.
useless scene.
earlier in the scene, this woman, I believe, told him to go to his rooms and to beware the man on crutches, who we later learn is named the Spider. There is a lot going on in this movie. And then they're in Chamber 13, and this guy who looks like he speaks for Satan. He's like Satan's, we'll call him the mouth of Satan from now on. The mouth of Satan is there with Satan's beast, and he takes Harold Lloyd to dinner. I'm just going to pause the review here for a second and say that if at any point you're doing something, and the subject of Satan's second in command and a man in a gorilla suit who calls himself the Beast of Satan, bringing silent comedian and star of Grandma's Boy Harold Lloyd to dinner comes up, it's time to immediately stop what you're doing and go and do something else. We did not. Sorry for the interruption, I thought it was important for you to know that. Alright, back to the review now.
Yeah. And then Harold Lloyd they say like, "Hey, we got your girl," and then they come in with his girl.
Oh, we should say that
And
when they arrive at the dinner table, like all of his friends are there, like like the professor from Dresden's there, the stranger who came to his door at the beginning of this movie's there.
Yeah.
There's a load of people there, and at the head of the table is like not Satan's mistress, Satan's other mistress, who's another woman, and they say you have to sign a page and sign
the page of life in your blood. And
which will give you eternal
you'll be-
happiness
yeah.
from Satan. And this whole movie, this whole time, this guy's been going like, we just want to go home. And who is Satan?
Yeah,
Who
you
is
keep
this
like,
Mr.
this
Satan?
Weird Satan person y'all keep talking about.
Finally, they like call the spider, and this wall just opens, and there's a staircase, and they make this man on crutches walk down the stairs. Like, you can tell that these guys are Satan worshippers because they made a man on crutches walk down the stairs.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, that's evil. There's no handicapped accessibility in this building. It's just a terrible facility. OSHA would just shut down the Satan's
Guys,
mansion.
he broke his leg snowboarding. They weren't expecting him to have a broken leg to come down the stairs.
We never really see why the spider guy is so intimidating.
He doesn't really do anything.
He's kind
in
of
fact,
pathetic.
at one point he goes to fight the protagonist, and the protagonist
Kind of like hobbles towards
lays him out.
Yeah.
He gets him on the
This
ground.
nerdy,
He gets behind him and gets his hands around his neck. And this nerdy dude who we've
this
seen
pathetic
literally
nerdy wimp
only fail.
who is
beats
just
him.
the weakest protagonist. Finally, they're just like, the spider has Eve, and finally he's just like, fine, I'll sign your book of life if you'll let Eve go. And so he signs the book of life, and they throw him into this tiny room, and this chest on the far side of the room opens, and the dwarf, who I mentioned earlier, comes in, goes, shh, and hands him a note that says, the only person you can trust in this place is me and Professor Moriarty, who we don't know that Martin Van Buren is Professor Moriarty yet. And he gives him a key, And Harold Lloyd unlocks the door, and he goes out, and you see a man in Satan cult robes and a woman walk past him, and there's like this elevator operator with a gun, and the guy comes in and says, "What are the sacred words?" And then the guy in the cult robes, he just like, "Hey, we are brothers in Satan. We are the hidden, unnamed
I'm one of Satan's eternal brothers.
unnamed brothers in eternity." So James Kirkham goes back to his room and gets Eve by beating this guy up, and then the two of them go back into the hall, and there's another cultist who they also beat up, and then they get his Satan robes, and Harold Lloyd puts them on. Then he and Eve go to the elevator guy. And the elevator operator asks them the secret code, and he goes, "Hail, we are brothers in Satan for eternity," or whatever, and they start going down. And the elevator operator is like, "I'm afraid you can't leave. There's a traitor who let 2 prisoners escape." And we're at this point only like halfway through the movie. So the elevator stops.
We're
opens,
I don't know. We're not only halfway through the summary, though, hopefully.
and he gets out at this ball.
Eve gets stole by some dudes and drug over, and she's sitting down, and he's being held back by some other dudes, and he's like, "Nah, give me Eve," and they're like, "No, boy, no."
I feel like this wasn't the same scene.
Yeah, it was.
It
That's
was?
when they got off
Yeah.
the elevator. Yeah.
Okay, that was the huge
Yeah.
ballroom.
And then, so they're all dancing and stuff, and well, not everybody's dancing, but a lot of people are on the ground.
And then the mouth,
Satan's
the
coming.
mouth of Satan's like, "Satan is coming," and then there's immediate stir. Everyone gets to their feet,
And Satan comes in.
and who is
he's
just a guy in
"What's
just
up?"
the black cult robes. He doesn't look special in any way. And then he says Satan's gonna choose 2 women to eat at Satan's table today. And so he chooses one woman who's just like, "What? Oh, amazing!" And then he chooses, of course, Eve, because why not? And because plot contrivance. And then another guy pulls out a gun, shoots it in the air, and says, "Kill the demon, kill the demon," instead of like shooting Satan, just bam, 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 just into the air, and that causes a panic. And Eve and Harold Lloyd are separated at this point. I need to stop saying Harold Lloyd.
Yeah.
Eve and James Kirkham, it just doesn't roll off the tongue,
It does.
Eve and James Kirkham are separated, and James ends up getting thrown into a room, and the door magically closes because it's a silent film and he can't get out. And that's when the fireplace opens up, and Professor Moriarty comes out. And he's like, "Come with me, I'll lead you to the spider's chamber." And he brings
Professor Martin Van Monkey.
Professor Martin Van Monkey comes in and he's like, "I'll take you to Satan's chamber," and then it cuts to this room which is apparently the spider's chamber, and you see a guy in a silhouette like hobbling across the room on crutches, and the beast of Satan is in there somewhere, and we see someone in like a sarcophagus, like the hand is like trying to escape from the sarcophagus, like there's someone inside trying to get out, but he can't like get like the leverage to like lift up the lid. And then that's when Professor Moriarty and James Kirkham arrive, and I think they're just kind of walking around in the room. They're just sort of wandering around in the room. There's not a lot going on, and basically at this point, the spider creeps up behind James Kirkham and just, and then
But James Kirkham gets him,
and the beast of Satan gets behind Professor Moriarty and also just starts. And then for just a second, it looks like the bad guys are going to overcome our heroes, at which point someone pushes all the books out of a bookcase from behind, and a gun comes out, and it's the dwarf from earlier, jumps out and kills the beast of Satan, and then joins in the melee, and then the door bursts open. I think the mouth of Satan like throws the door open, and like 4 cultists rush in, and then Moriarty and James Kirkham is beating back the spider at this point. They throw the lid off the sarcophagus, and they pull Eve out, because Eve was in the sarcophagus, and then there's a big fight, a big melee. The dwarf gets away, but Moriarty, Eve, and James Kirkham are captured by the cultists and dragged down into this big room. And this is where the titular footprints of Satan come in. Because
very nicely lit and numbered
yes,
stairs.
These are literal steps leading to Satan. And they're just like, "These are traitors, they must be dealt with." And then the mouth of Satan's like, here, he offers him
The game show begins.
a game, which is basically walk up these stairs.
If you step
There's
on the
7
right
of
one,
them.
cool. Good job.
If you step on all 4 steps of salvation, you are immediately released. If you step on 4 wrong, you immediately die. And if you look at the running counter of whether he stepped on the right steps or not, you also immediately die. So this guy is not going to know A, how many steps he's taken wrong, or B, which steps are right.
Can I just say, the math still doesn't make sense because there's 7 steps, but 4 of them will lead to salvation and 4 of them will lead to death.
The obvious right answer is to just skip
Counting the
all
top.
the steps,
Wait, yeah.
because you can't. And each step you take wrong is a year in the service of Satan, and if you get 4 wrong, then you immediately die. So the obvious answer is to just skip all the steps, and so that you just make it to the top.
That's what I said. Take 2 big steps to the top.
There seems to be a slight error in Satan's game.
Take a big jump and get to
Step
number
6.
6.
Yeah.
And then
do a
just
year.
yeah, and then just do a year.
And if not, if you get one of the right ones, then that's also good.
Yeah,
Just get to the top.
You're good.
Because the top step is good. We know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then he gets 3 wrong, so he's 3 years of service, but he makes it up to the top, and Satan goes congratulations, you've made it up to the top of my pathetic staircase. You have to serve me for 3 years, but you get to live. And Eve will be set free, as will, I assume, Professor... He doesn't really seem to care much about Professor Moriarty.
No.
He's just sort of do what you want with him, Satan.
Lets him go.
And he's Satan's congratulations, Satan out. And he leaves, and then the music just stops.
And everybody leaves.
And it's just this really awkward
noise.
It's just this casual conversation chatter just starts up, and everyone just exits the room, and James Kirkman's just what? And that was exactly what we were doing too. We were just what's going on?
Movie's over.
And cut! Alright, strike the set, everyone. We're done. That's alright, it was all a prank! And then we see the mouth of Satan with Eve captive at the top of the stairs, and she's screaming. We're oh no, the movie's still going. I don't know why they had that scene. And so we chase the mouth of Satan up to the scene, and they hide behind a curtain, and Eve's shh, 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 and the mouth of Satan just fires 4 shots in the air, and they run away giggling. And then James Kirkham bursts through the curtain, and it's just a banquet, and all the characters that we've seen previously in the movie are just eating dinner together. And Uncle Joe is sitting at the head of this banquet, and he's just psych, it was all a prank! It was all because they didn't want him to leave for Darkest Africa, that he set up this elaborate horror house in...
But Dad, I want to go to Darkest Africa. No, you're serving Satan for 3 years.
And he evidently, because he didn't know about this expedition to Africa until that day, he set up this entire elaborate murder house in approximately the 2 hours it took for him to leave, and then he's just aha, and remember, you serve 3 years, because it turns out that Uncle Joe was the man in the cult robe. He was Satan, so it's aha, turns out you have to serve 3 years in the service of Satan.
Aha!
So you work for me now.
At Uncle Satan Joe's
Yeah, Uncle
club.
Satan's club. And all of the people are just people that work for Uncle Joe. The entire thing, it turned out, was just Uncle Joe not wanting James Kirkham to go on this expedition, so he's just I'll give you enough adventure for a lifetime, and then we go to the end.
Alright.
Alright. So, let's start. So, Joe.
Yes.
So, let's say that you're at a gala,
Alright.
right, and you've been kidnapped. You're at the top of the footprints of Satan. And Satan goes, okay, you've made it. But before I let you go, I have one question for you. Is 7 footprints to Satan worth it?
Mr. Satan, I just want to say this. While not everyone enjoys this movie, and at times it looks like I very much hated this movie, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and I will probably watch this movie again at some point, because I liked it.
I would agree.
Okay.
At first, until about 20 minutes in, I was just nah, this isn't worth it. But as soon as we get into this crazy horror house, I'd say it
Whole house.
Crazy
Horror.
I mean, it very well could be. Have you seen how those women were dressed? The twists and turns that this movie brings you on make it totally worth it in the end, in my opinion.
I'm going to say worth it and give no further explanation to my answer.
Alright, I'm gonna have to disagree with you guys and go ahead and just say...
You moron.
if I would definitely not recommend this movie to somebody. I don't think it's worth the time. There's definitely things that could have done it for me. They could have put it over the top. That didn't happen. The plot was a little all over the place for me to keep up with.
You could say that.
That combined with the length and the runtime of this movie,
It was pretty long.
So I have to say, not worth it for this one today.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, that was 7 Footprints to Satan, and what a movie it was.
Yeah.
I've been Ian,
I've been Charlie.
I've been Austin.
I've been Joe.
and this was Is It Worth It?
Oh my god, it was a prank. Bruh. Bruh, it was a prank.
This is the best movie of all time.